You are listening to Love in Movement, a podcast where we share our unique expressions of living love in our daily life, inspired by messages in the book, A Course of Love.
Welcome, everyone, to our Course of Love podcast show. The title of our podcast series is Love in Movement. Let me welcome today our guest, who many of you know from A Course of Love community, Elliott Robertson. He is joining us from Richmond, Indiana. Welcome, Elliott. It's such an honor to have you again.
Such a pleasure to be here. It's always a joy to be with you, Lynn.
And let me just give a little intro to the topic here. We're gonna be looking at the grace of transformation. And so I'm going to go ahead and let Elliott take it away, and we'll just go from there. We're going to read a passage in A Course of Love, maybe something in Course in Miracles down the line.
I'm just so grateful for this chance to dialogue with you about transformation, Lynn. One of the things that I'm wondering about and noticing is that for me, I think my transformation process or experience has had a lot of moments of joy in it. I wonder if the joy and the bliss that I've been experiencing over the last few months has been part of the fertilizer that's been helping me with my spiritual growth, my maturation, my ripening on the vine. I really have been having lots of experiences walking outside, usually on a blue sky, fluffy cloud day, but it can be any weather at all. It's sort of unconditional. Something will bubble up in me and emerge, just the feeling of being blessed, that feeling and the words, I am blessed. I wonder if that could be one of the things that is really supporting me and feeding my transformation is that state of grace that just shows up on its own accord, it seems. What would you like to share about that, Lynn, in your own experience, and if you think there might be a connection between the two?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What was coming up for me is being in the state of miracle readiness. That to me, in my own experience, is I'm out of my head, I'm out of my thinking mind. And like you said, you were walking and you were feeling. And so the feelings for me are what's clear and present, are what's natural. And the thinking mind, is usually I'm connected to the past or I'm projecting into the future. So when I'm in that state, I feel connected to my true self. And I believe that is the state of miracle readiness, in that awareness of being with the true self, connected, that is. It opens up this space for grace to flow through. And naturally, for me, when grace flows, I do feel joyful. I feel blissful. I feel peaceful. I mean, it's the love of God. It's the love of the true self. And it is joyful, absolutely. And so what I was going to share is, how I came to actually live in this place I'm living now. I moved this past February, so I've only been here 5 months. But last summer, this is what I was doing. Every Sunday night, I would walk in what I became to know the miracle path. I called it the miracle path because I had so many holy encounters before I walked on this path. I would stand and I would say, I am open to the unknown. It was a forested area back where I live. I'm open to the unknown. I'm open to the unexpected. And I met all kind of amazing people on this miracle path, which became my name for it. But it was being in that state of miracle readiness, opening to the unknown, letting go, letting God. I met my roommate that I have now on the miracle path. And one day our path just intersected. And it was a holy encounter. And within 30 minutes, I was making plans almost to move here. He was inviting me to move And it was all through grace. This just came through me out of nowhere. I didn't ask for any of it, none of it. It just came to me, the perfect place to live. It cut my expenses in half. And then the other thing, the 4.5 months when I moved, getting everything ready, packing, donating, all of that, it was all done through me. There was no efforting at all, not one single block. So yes, that's kind of like my short to long answer on what you just shared, Elliott.
That's beautiful. What comes to mind is sort of a tangent, but I think I have been just naturally finding myself breathing in more full breaths lately, partly because of the meditation that I've been learning, a new meditation that is really about being embodied, as opposed to the mantra meditations that have been that are also wonderful, but that have become popular over the last few years and have been around in India for thousands of years. So I've been making a shift in my life from one meditation to another, one that really does focus on the breath a whole lot. And I think that as a result of that, I think my breath throughout the day in general might be more full. I don't know for sure, but I really do feel like one of the things that's going to be important for all of us in the years to come is being able to really tap into our capacity to breathe. So many of us in America, perhaps throughout the world, are breathing shallowly. That can be a result of being in panic or fear or worry. And it also can just be a habit, I suppose. And I just really feel like that supports our spirit, our body, just supports us on every level. And especially, speaking of emotions and feelings, speaking of feelings, it really does help us to experience a greater range of emotions, to honor the grief, to experience the grief and not numb any of those feelings down, as well as the highest joy and bliss. It really does open up that range. So I feel like that availability of feelings might also be helpful in terms of having a wonderful fertilizer that can support us in the journey of transformation.
Yeah, I love that. I have a stillness practice as well, and I meditate and do a lot of breath work to get centered in my meditations. The feelings, and this is something that's established in A Course of Love. It says emotions are not the language of the heart, but in your feelings, especially those you cannot name, lies your connection to all that is. The thing that happens is the emotions mostly are the emotional activity that comes up. They're connected to thoughts and judgments. And we've not, as you said, we have not looked at that and owned it, because if I'm emotionally reactive to something and I have judgments that I'm projecting, there's something in me that I need to see. And this is all in line with the whole process of transformation, because the true transformation comes from within. As the Course of Love says, as within, so without. And so it has to come from within first, and then it's manifested out. Going what you were saying, with you're walking, and because you're doing all this feeling work and the meditation, and the same for me. And this is not about telling anybody what to do. We're sharing our experiences. Yes, for sure. The breath work is really, really helpful, as well as having a stillness practice or sitting in silence every day and being in touch with those true deep feelings that are the part of us that is highly attuned and responsive from a deep level of our heart, whereas emotions are more of the surface reactivity. But we have to be able to hold all of it, because emotions, when they're repressed, and I've experienced this. I was having panic attacks when I repressed a lot of emotions. It comes out in the body, and this is nothing new. It's all in the medical field as well.
Thank you, Lynn. I was listening to the previous podcasts. This is the third one, I guess, since Love and Motion, Love and the Movement of Love.
Love and movement.
Love and Movement since it began. And I was just really enjoying the readings from A Course of Love in the previous broadcasts. I was wondering if you might read for us a passage about transformation that's in the prelude.
Sure, yeah, I have it right here. It's the prelude, and this is A Course of Love. This is the very beginning of the book. And I believe it's right after the introduction. And actually, it's kind of a hidden gem because I don't feel like very many people really speak about the prelude, but it's loaded with jewels, absolutely loaded. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read. This is paragraph 40 in the prelude. And I'm going to read slowly so we can feel into the essence of these words and listen with the ear of the heart between the lines. To tell someone, even a young child, that a caterpillar becomes a butterfly is seemingly unbelievable. This does not make it any less true. The butterfly, although some perceive it as being lovelier to behold, is still the same being as the caterpillar. The caterpillar did not cease to exist. It simply transformed into what it always was. The caterpillar did not cease to exist. It simply transformed into what it always was. Thus, it would seem as if the butterfly is both butterfly and caterpillar, two separate things becoming one. You are well aware of the fact that if you could not see the transformation take place with your own two eyes, you would not believe that the two seemingly disparate creatures were the same. Someone telling you this story of transformation without being able to show you proof that you could see would be accused of making up a fairy tale for your amusement.
Thank you, Lynn. I'm wondering if in your life, well, you know what? First of all, just say that what I'm noticing about my own experience these days with that, now that I've reflected on that passage for a few days, I'm noticing, and I know we're all unique, but I know that for me, whenever I think about the collective, about the planet, about the whole of humanity, I'm absolutely certain that God has our back, that there's a lot of transformation going on right now, and that the momentum of transformation will be picking up, and that we're going to be living in the creation of the new. That things are going to, that heaven is going to be on earth, at least more so than it is now, within my lifetime. However, when I think of the line from the Bible, when somebody says something along the lines of, and Jesus said, others will do greater things than I will, or you will do greater things than I will, sometimes I have some deflection going on. It doesn't sink in. I think I'm at a threshold where that's changing now. I think I'm starting to write poems without making it in second person, you God, and I'm finding a way to have that unity show up in the poems. But basically, when I look back over the last few months, I think for the most part, on a personal level, there's been some deflection, some resistance, maybe even rolling the eyes when that biblical passage about you can do greater things than I, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing what Jesus said. When I hear it on a personal level, there's a little bit of resistance and it doesn't sink in. And on the collective level, for me, there are no doubts. I'm wondering how all of this lands with you, Lynn, and what your experience is. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's different from mine, because all of us are on unique places on the paths and just, having our own unique journeys.
Yeah, I like that too. And there's another line that came up for me with Jesus in the New Testament too. And you were saying that is you will do greater things than I, but he also very clearly said, I of my own self can do nothing. It is the Father's will through me. And so for me, the creation of the new, that's just it. Sure, we may be able to reach even greater multitudes than Jesus ever did in his life. But to me, the whole gist of all of this is that he was aligned with the Father's will. I can of my own self do nothing. To me, this whole passage we read, the butterfly, this transformational process is a metaphor for me. It's a metaphor for, yes, this journey into to the deep heart, as the Sufis say, or the wholeheartedness that A Course of Love talks about, the mind and heart joined. The true transformation, as we were talking earlier, Elliott, is always comes from within. That beautiful line, as within, so without. When we stay aligned with that, the true self, I think that is the creation of the new, because we're no longer seeing through the glass darkly. We're no longer looking at the world through our projections, our judgments, our emotional reactivities. We're actually seeing through a clear mind. That involves the feeling state for me. The cloudy mind is just caught up in this, I think it's the Buddhists call it the monkey mind, the chatter of the monkey mind, where the mind is not still. I'm usually caught up in something that's past, thinking about it, and it's over. Or I'm projecting into the future, worrying about something that hasn't even happened. But the feeling state is what's real and clear and present in this moment. It's our natural state. So to be with God is our natural state. The kingdom
Lynn,
of heaven
thank
is
you.
within. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, thank you so much for you've said so many different things. And what I really was so grateful for that really got me in touch with the Father within me was the part about you didn't use the word dependence, but you were talking about Jesus saying, I am totally dependent on the Father within me. I can do nothing without the Father within me. And of course, these days, I find myself saying mother at least as much as father when I'm talking. So, the little details about vocabulary are not the end of the story for me. They just enrich the story with a variety. So the dependence is just such a beautiful and important element to include, it seems. If we really do want to pivot in the direction of heaven and walk in that direction, there is the element of dependence for our will to be aligned with God's will. The other thing that comes to mind as I listen to you might really be sort of tangential to what you were saying is I find myself wondering if we are called, it's about unconditionality. If we are called to, rely on God no matter what's going on, whether or not things are going our way. In other words, maybe we are called to look squarely at what's happening in our lives. A number of years ago, for me, looking squarely at what's happening in my life was noticing that my daily habit, my routine of starting the day by going to a cafe to write was disrupted. And I was sort of maybe even having a little bit of grief about that loss, because in 2020, the cafes where I was living in Philadelphia back then were all closed, and that was just not an option. I think we're called to look at whatever it is, even if it's the cafe's closing, and at the same time, notice the truth, affirm the truth, be glad in the truth, celebrate the truth, celebrate our dependence upon God, celebrate God's eagerness to love us, how it's impossible for God to do anything except be steadfastly loving us and supporting us and opening his heart to us, opening her door to us. Did you want to say anything about all of that?
Yeah, I love that. And I was going to say, I of my own self can do nothing. Jesus was being questioned about all these miracles he was performing. And, to sit there and say, that's a humbleness. What I'm going to say is it's an absolute humility and humbleness to be able to say that. I step back and let God lead the way, or I step back and let love lead the way. Because it's a surrender, and I'm getting the personal self out of the way. And so if I think I can walk around and control everything and effort and all that kind of stuff, that's just the personal self, and without any reliance on the divine. But we are the divine. The divine is within us. We're never separated.
Thank you, Lynn. I guess I started off by talking about how I was experiencing, I am blessed, experiencing the feeling of being blessed and celebrating the blessings. And I just wanted to go full circle back to that. And one of the things we can do when we are wanting to stir up some celebration, of course, is to read the scriptures, to read A Course of Love, A Course in Miracles. Lately, I've also been reading Choose Only Love. And very often, when we're reading it, there's a chance to celebrate whatever the message is that's being communicated. Just to read a few things from Choose Only Love that can be celebrated and that can help to enrich our fertilizer for our inner garden to help us continue with our transformation and growth. One of the things I'm reading right here is it is necessary for this truth to be experienced so that the heart and mind are absorbed in it. Just to put that in context, to believe that the world cannot be transformed by the love of God is absurd, since love is infinite. I'm sure that just dipping into any place in a course of love would bring forward something that can be a pond to swim in and celebrate, and just an occasion for upliftment and for experiencing ourselves as the spacious self. I'm wondering now if, we might want to also draw from what A Course in Miracles has to say. Perhaps you could also share that with us.
So yeah, thank you for that, Elliott. I really loved what you were sharing. And yeah, this is in a chapter in A Course in Miracles called The Gifts of the Kingdom. And the section is entitled The State of Grace. And this actually shows what it's like to live in the light of the heart, to live in true forgiveness, to live in this state of grace, miracle readiness. It says here, when a mind has only light, it knows only light. Its own radiance shines all around it and extends out into the darkness of other minds, transforming them into majesty. The majesty of God is there for you to recognize and appreciate and know. Recognizing the majesty of God as your brother is to accept your own inheritance. God gives only equally. And I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. Yes, when a mind has only light and knows only light, Its own radiance shines all around it and extends out into the darkness of others' minds, transforming them into majesty.
There's a trust and a courage to go through it all and to hold fast to that inner light, as we just read, the radiance of the inner light. Let the eye be single, and our whole body will be filled with light. So that's but that was what was coming up for me.
Oh, thank you. Yes, let the eye be single and our whole body will be filled with light. I feel like that is a thread that has been showing up time and again over our entire dialogue. It's been said in different ways, and now you are really saying it in such a concise way. I feel like celebration and joy and being open to surrendering to bliss, and also available to the entire range of feelings. Grief can be part of the recipe. Feel like all of that is clearing the way, opening the way for the entirety of our mind to be radiant with light,
Yeah.
so that we are able to reach out, extend into the darkness and transform those around us into their majesty as well. What synchronicities showed up? I count synchronicities as miracles. Just making a list of all of the moments when your intuition has guided you to something wonderful, or you just have been able to set yourself aside and let your true self show up. That's the kind of countenance, that's the kind of setting of our inner sails that can really seem like a small thing, but that can really take us in the direction of showing up at heaven's gate during our daily life. I'm reminded of the wonderful, famous biblical passage, and I can't remember where it's from, but it's Paul saying, think on these things, all that is beautiful and noble. Instead of cursing, think on these things, is basically his message. Think of all the goodness. Know that God does the work. Once again, dependence. Thank you for that. You're bringing all of that back to mind for me and reminding me of these wonderful pointers, signposts, reminding us of where we need to focus our attention. Appreciation, it might be a mental thing, but it can lead the way to gratitude, which might be in the heart. So, getting the heart, one of the ways the mind can serve the heart is by appreciating, which also reminds me of a quote from Thomas Merton, which is so aligned with the course of love. You do not need to know precisely what is happening or exactly where it is all going. What you need is to recognize the possibilities and challenges offered by the present moment and to embrace them with courage, faith, and hope. And I really feel like that is something that applies to all of us in our personal ongoings and also to the collective world right now.
The St. Francis prayer starts out, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. And that's it, the instrument of the maestro, or the open vessel for the love to flow through. And when I am out of my head and I'm in my heart and in the feeling state, I am in the flow. That's what I experience. And it's almost like a timeless moment, but something is flowing through me, and it is the grace of God and the grace of transformation, and it goes out into the world, and its light blesses and radiates to everyone, as we just read in the Course in Miracles. So go ahead, Elliott. I'll let you take us to the end here with whatever you want to share, and then we'll have to close.
Wonderful. And speaking of being in the flow state, I just want to thank you so much for this wonderful podcast that you have started not too long ago, because it really does help me to find my way into the flow. And this is a poem I wrote earlier today. Oh, how I love this tenderness, the softness of my heart, the holiness of love at work in me. Oh, how I long to sing love's song, surrendered to each note. Oh, how I long to gaze into love's eyes. To be the love of God is blessed. To be God's light is grand. Oh, how I long to listen to the voice of love sing out my name. Oh, how I love this dwelling place, this heart made from God's love. The house of love is my sweet home each day when I awake. Though I may be distracted by the worries of the day, love waits for me to notice her. And when I do, our presence becomes one. Oh, how I love this eagerness, this longing to love all. I'm blessed to be true light, begotten of true light.
Thank you so much, Elliott. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I do believe our time is kind of up, and I just want to thank you again, Elliott, for joining us. It's always a great pleasure to have you on podcasts, videos, and the liking. So once again, and thank you to all our listeners out there. Peace, love, grace, and blessings.